Our quick hits, three topics that I wanted to just touch on briefly that came up over the last couple of weeks that some of you may have seen. First one, U.S. fourth quarter 2024 grew only 2.3%, less than expected. Is it a cause for concern for the U.S., or is it maybe just a bit of a pullback? We'll touch on that. Trump sets up sovereign wealth fund to buy perhaps TikTok. We have a number of countries around the world, a couple of areas around the world as well, that set up this sovereign wealth fund. And basically what that is the country puts aside some money to make investment. And some are thinking that maybe if the United States does this, then maybe they could actually buy TikTok themselves. Third quick hit, central banks urged to revamp interest rate setting policies. We saw how slow central banks were to start to raise interest rates. Inflation was rearing its ugly head for a long time before central banks started to raise interest rates. Central banks were saying, oh, it's okay. Inflation is transitory. It's something that is popping up and it's basically temporary and it'll go away over time. Well, that did not happen and central banks had to raise rates very quickly. Let's go to our first quick hit. The US Q4 grew at 2.3%. Our first chart here, we can see how the quarterly results have fared. 2.3% is the lowest since the first quarter of the year. However, when you look at it, I'm not panicking, or I don't think anybody should panic based on 2.3%. If you take a look at the year in total, you're looking at a growth rate of 2.8%. And our first quarter GDP in the US is actually looking even stronger than that for this coming quarter, or for this year, first quarter 2025. So anyone reading about 2.3%, oh, maybe things are slowing down, maybe the consumer is slowing down, I don't think that's the case. I think that it is just a bit of a blip down from what we're used to seeing. If you go back to the third quarter three of 2023, you can see almost 4.5%. Wow, that was a pretty large number. Second quick hit, wanted to just briefly touch on was President Trump sets up a foreign sovereign or a sovereign wealth fund. And again, as I mentioned, this is a fund where money is contributed to, and this is used to make buys. And we've seen other very large sovereign wealth funds around the world making buys or making investments, such as the Saudi Arabia wealth fund, making big investments in the United States, announcing $600 billion in investment in the US. We have a chart here on the largest sovereign wealth funds in the world. And many of you probably wouldn't know that Norway Government Pension Fund is the biggest, followed by China Investment Corporation. There you have Abu Dhabi Investment Authority. So Kuwait down towards the bottom there. So these are investment funds that are built and created to make investment for the country. And many believe that maybe President Trump is starting one in the United States to perhaps buy TikTok. We'll have to see. Time will tell. Our third quick hit is this idea about central banks, and they've been urged to revamp interest rate setting policy. The Bank for International Settlements is urging central banks to revamp how they see interest rates. They believe that interest rates were kept too low for too long, and they created the issue with regards to inflation. And then we went through the pandemic. We spent a lot of money here in Canada and the US, and that just made the situation even worse. So the Bank for International Settlements is saying you need to look at your interest rate setting policy, how you set policy, and revamp it to be more modern in terms of the times that we're seeing today. So those are the three quick hits that I saw, and probably many of you have seen as well in the news. Wanted to make a few comments on them, but overall, to me, it's all about the interesting sovereign wealth fund, how interest rate policy will be set by central banks. These are interesting quick hits that I wanted to discuss today.